Hi, everyone. It's Diane Willock, Customer Success Coach here at Supermums. And I am joined by my colleague again, Maria Stanford, also a Customer Success Coach here at Supermums. And today we are joining you to talk about best tips and practices to prepare for your interview and during your interview to help you stand out as an awesome candidate. So I'm going to hand it over actually to Maria right now because she's going to talk about the preparation and her top 3 tips that will help you to stand out. So Maria?
Thank you so much for the lovely introduction, Diane. So I'm actually going to focus today because obviously there's so much prep work, isn't there, Diane, before an actual interview that needs to take place. But I'm really just going to focus on actually on the day of the interview. How can you prepare, mentally prepare, and make sure that you're in the best position to walk into that interview fully armed? So for anybody that has been coached by myself, either via Supermums or actually through, through my own business, will know that I do love power posing. So, I always do this. So I have been known to power pose in toilets and kind of private settings before anything kind of reasonably nerve-wracking. And I love power posing because kind of getting into that position. Number one, we have super in our title name, which I love. So that makes me even more proud to do superposing. I think getting into that position and really kind of making yourself bold. I won't do it here on a live, that's streaming everywhere, but certainly getting yourself, standing up and making yourself big. It does give you that feeling of kind of being bold and powerful and unstoppable. So it's just about building that confidence of thinking, okay, opening everything up, because we tend to get a bit tight, don't we, when we're when we're nervous and anxious. So opening everything up and standing really big and kind of being that person, discovering those superpowers that you've got and really owning it before that interview. I think the other top tip for me is definitely planning your time before the interview. And I think this is really critical. And I think certainly if you are a parent, who can support you potentially with that school run in the morning or making sure that you do have a quiet space to have that interview. I think this is also vital now because we're generally interviewing online, virtually. So, making sure that our space is nice and we feel good wherever we're going to take place with that interview. The other thing I like to say is directly before that interview, really try to fill your cup. So that might be, whether that's a little walk in nature, getting outside, getting some sunshine, whether that is listening to something inspirational, a favorite TED talk, or something on YouTube that you really like that's uplifting, or actually your favorite playlist, just to really kind of get you into that mood and really try and take away those anxieties. So that kind of prep before that interview, I think, is really key to making sure that you're in the best position possible. Yes. I think my last top tip is definitely on the day of the interview, tap into those past successes. I said this in an interview with our global community manager this week, Rachel Chan, and I think this is really important because sometimes when we're going for that role, we might not feel confident, in ourselves, but actually we've got a whole heap of past successes that we can actually tap into that can just give us that little bit of confidence boost when we need it. So, go back and refresh on those just directly before your interview. To give you that additional boost actually on the day. So they would be my 3 top tips.
Yes, that is great because I think a lot of times we don't we're too busy kind of preparing for the actual interview. And getting in the right mindset is so important because that attitude is infectious. So if you're getting yourself ready and you're getting into that right mindset, it's going to go a long way during your interview. That's important too. So thanks so much. I think those are really important to think about, especially again, taking care of yourself and making sure that you are feeling confident before you're going into the interview. That's so important. So, and then just kind of building off of that, I'm going to talk about during your interview and what are best practices and what are my three top tips, and they kind of go hand in hand with what Maria was talking about. Because my first tip is really to have that energy in your interview, but most importantly, try as best you can to kind of emulate and match your interviewer style, because interviewers and companies like to hire people that they can relate to and that are likable. So if they see you as someone that is like them, they are going to feel comfortable with you. It's going to put everybody at ease. And pay attention to what their language is that they're using, their tone of voice. One caveat, some interviewers, maybe they didn't have their morning cup of coffee and their energy is a little bit low. So definitely don't go in there. If you have an interviewer that has a low energy level, make sure you're still keeping your energy level up and your enthusiasm. But again, pay attention to their body language, pay attention to the language that they're using, and try to emulate that and match that. It's going to go a long way to make them feel comfortable and make yourself feel comfortable. And it's a good icebreaker for you as you're starting your interview. And then number two kind of goes off the back end of what Maria was saying about preparing yourself with your success stories. Make sure that you know, kind of backwards and forwards, your success stories and what you have done, and have these stories available to pull out to answer to any type of situational question that you might have. It's best practice to follow the method that we call STAR method: situation, task, action, and result. But know the beginning, the middle, the end of your story, and be able to customize that to any type of situational question that you might have. And know what you've done and what you've achieved so that you're able to show and provide examples for any of those questions. These are your successes. Know them backwards and forwards so that you're able to pull those out for any type of situational question that you might get. And then number three is really, I think, the most important, best practice that you can have during an interview that we often forget about. We're so busy talking and answering questions that we forget ourselves to ask questions. So it's really important that you ask questions of the interviewer. Ask questions to clarify if you don't understand a particular question. Sometimes we answer a question, we're not sure if we answered it correctly, or we're really telling them the information that they need to know. So make sure you're clarifying any of those questions that you're not quite sure about. And I think really the most important question that you can ask an interviewer that's going to help you stand out and help them remember you is to ask them to describe the type of individual or the person that they see would be the best fit for this role and would be the best successful person in this role. If you ask them that question and you ask them to describe that person, they're going to tell you what they need that person to have, the characteristics, the skills, and what they need from that person in that role. So this is going to give you a chance to go back. And if you haven't answered that question, if you haven't really addressed any of those skills, any of those characteristics that they need in that role to be a success, it's going to give you a chance to go back and address those questions, address those in a better way for an answer. And I think it's really the most important question that you can ask. Have them tell you what they need. Have them, tell you why they feel, a certain person is going to be a success in that role. So don't forget to ask those questions and ask that most important question at the end. So those are kind of my top three tips. I think it goes along very nicely what Maria was saying, to make sure that you know your success is backwards and forwards. You ask those important questions and make sure that you are matching the tone and the language and the body language of the interviewer in that interview. And I don't know if there's any questions out there. That's kind of my top three tips. Maria, if there's anything that you want to add to this and to piggyback on what I said, that would be wonderful too as well.
I think, they're brilliant tips actually that you've given there. And I think the thing that stands out for me is that clarification, because sometimes when you're nervous and you're in that interview situation, when somebody starts to talk, you're already thinking how perhaps you're going to answer that.
Right.
And then you kind of come to it and you kind of think, oh, I haven't really
Is
been
that
perhaps
it? Yeah.
into that question. And
Right.
so I think, asking for that clarification so that you can then just, okay, you've got that, and then you can answer competently with
Right.
with a good answer. So I think that's really good. It's okay to ask for clarification.
Yes. It's okay to do
And
that. Right.
yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I think it is about having that mindset, and the successes are definitely a way before to boost, but also, again, sometimes we forget what our past successes have been. And so it is about going back and uncovering those, isn't it, before that
Right.
interview, and making sure that you can, that you're
Right.
really going to be able to answer from a place of genuine,
Genuine.
um,
Right.
yeah, that's really genuine, and that you've already got that mapped out with the star.
Right. I always think it helps to, again, yeah, map out those success stories and
Yeah,
realize that you're going to explain that situation. And I think the most important part of that, your success story is really why was it, why was it a success? What did you do to contribute? And
mm,
what was your achievement during that? And again, what I like about being able to know your success stories is it can apply to a lot of different situational questions that they're asking, because there's different components of that success story. So you can mold it and use it to answer a lot of different questions. But it's important that you know it, and you're able to just kind of pull it out of your bag
yeah.
as soon as you want to, and that'll work for you too. So. Anything, any questions anybody's has, we'd love to answer for you. And you can go ahead and ask questions, and we'll get back to you. Post any comments that you want. Again, we are, happy to be here and be live with you today and answer questions. And I think we just have some good mornings, which is
Yeah,
good.
have some good mornings, yeah, from Virginia, definitely. But certainly, I second that. Sort of, if there is anything that we can help with around that, with supporting you, I will also drop our Calendly link into the chat as well, or Diane can.
Mhm.
And if you do kind of watch this, if you're actually doing it on replay and you have any questions, do drop them into the comments, and we will check those over the day today, and come back to you with our best answers. But yeah, there's so many tips, isn't there, Diane? But I think you have to go with your favorites of kind of what works, and and
Yeah, there are so many tips, and I did struggle with that, I think, as well, because there's a lot of tips that I give individuals on, how how to best stand out during interview, and it's really situational too. It depends on the interview that you're going through, because obviously nowadays we are going through multitude interviews. It's no longer just one interview, two interview, and then you're hired. It seems to be very standard to be going to at least 3 to 4, 5, 6 interviews. So at each step, there's actually some tips that you can use on each step that will help progress you. That is one area that I like to talk about a lot. And that is that your goal within that interview, no matter what stage you're at, is to get to that next step. So think about that. You want to make sure that you're getting to that next step and that there's a continuation. So there's some different tips that you can use. We could stand here all day and talk about it. We do have one question. How would you address career switching? What if you don't have any directly relevant experience? I know how I would answer that, and that is that you probably have directly relevant experience, that you're just not able to, you might need help figuring out what that direct relevant experience is. So it's really about knowing what are your skill sets, what experiences have you gone through, and how can you direct that into that new role, and how will that address the skills that are needed for that new role. So I think that's really just more about analyzing. I don't know what you would say, Maria, but I have found that there really is direct transferable skills to almost any job and role out there that you're going for. So even if you are career switching, now if they're asking for something specific, that a certain technology, or something like that, that's a different story. But you should be able to find some of those skill sets that do switch over to a new career. And it's really just about analyzing that and getting to know yourself and getting to know, what that skill set is. How would you address that, Maria?
I think I would totally agree. And what you sometimes need to do is your transferable skills are perhaps masked by a different title
Right.
or by something that's underneath another role, another specific role that you've got there. So it is about unpicking that and going, okay, what did it actually take for me to complete that? And what skills was I using?
Right.
And then how does that then directly relate to that new role that you might be going for?
Yeah,
I think
that's a good point. Masking underneath some different title.
yeah,
I actually talked to someone the other day when we were talking about this, and realizing that she had quite a bit of experience in project management, but it wasn't really being titled as project management.
yeah,
So again, it's about picking apart your specific role, your experiences before, and looking at what exactly you did, and what
yeah.
were those skill sets that you used in that particular role.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
I,
absolutely. And I think I would say if you haven't got any experience in that, it's actually okay to say, I don't have
right.
experience in that, but that is something that I'm really keen to learn.
Learn.
Would you agree, Diane? Because,
Yes.
you're not perhaps especially if there's on a technical side, you might not necessarily have
Right.
used that particular skill set, but it might be something that really interests you that you could actually do some research on. And list out the points why you wanted to learn that or what interests you around that new skill.
Yeah, I think that brings up a good point, because what you want to do during interview, not so much is if you don't have those specific skills, but what you want to show during an interview is that you are a resourceful person, and
Yeah.
that you are a learner, and that you can pick up, any type of skill, and that you know how to at least figure out how to learn that skill. So that's the most important part. Is even if you don't have that specific skill or don't know that specific technology, it's to make sure that you come across as the person that's going to figure it out, and how to do that. And you are resourceful. I think that's one of the best qualities to have, and to be able to um, put forth during your interview, is that you will figure it out. You're the type of person that likes to learn, can adapt easily, and are able to adapt to any technology that might be needed.
Yeah. Curious and inquisitive minds, I think
Yes.
are always really good.
And they always tell you that you should be, that is kind of the learner mindset, is that you try to figure out things on your own. And if you're used to doing this, before you ask questions, you should try to figure out the answer at least twice. That's what I always say. Try to figure out the answer at least twice on your own. It helps you to adapt to that learner mindset, to be able to teach yourself, to be able to research, and then you might go to someone else for help. So just if you're adopting that mindset, that anything you're curious about or you want to learn about, try to figure it out on your own. See if you can find the answer yourself, and then maybe go somewhere else for help. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I know Raquel was just said about using flashcards, and that's actually a really
I
good
love
point,
flashcards.
because and they are really good. And then that virtual setting, they're really good to be able to use, because
Right.
certainly with your success stories, I kind of say, sometimes we do have to dig a bit deep to get them out. But actually, if you can just put something on a flashcard that
Right.
just gives you a pop of a reminder,
Yes.
that's just going to prompt you to talk about what that experience is. You don't have to really have it down written word for word what that is, but just something that's going to remind you of that experience or that success story, or, whatever that might be.
I'm having like
Those are really good.
flashbacks to like
Yeah.
high school and presentation
Yeah.
in college, where I would have like a keyword on a flashcard if I had to memorize a presentation, and you can't obviously write everything out, so you just have a
No.
keyword there, so that
Yeah.
okay, now I know where to move on. I'm having those flashbacks all of a sudden.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And that is interesting too, because being on Zoom and being in the virtual world does present itself with some different situations, and also maybe some advantages, because you can be have those flashcards next to you, and reminders next to you. So take that to be your full advantage if you're having an interview over Zoom, to be able to have those notes ready, and to be able to have that those flashcards or the keywords that you want to bring up and you want to use during your interview.
Yeah, it is definitely an advantage, isn't it?
Yeah.
To some extent.
Right.
I've loved sharing those top tips. It's been
I,
brilliant, hasn't it?
I know, like, again, we could share so many more.
I know.
But I did put the link down to both mine and Maria's schedule. So if you'd like to book in a consultation with us and talk to us further about anything or any other questions that you might have, we'd love to talk to you. We'd also love to answer any comments here. We'll make sure to come back, and if there's any new comments, we'll let you know what our answers are to the best of our ability. And we'd love to talk to you more.
Absolutely. Hopefully speak soon.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a
Thanks so
great
much,
day.
Diane. Bye-bye.
Bye, Maria.
Bye.